Hi, welcome to that Groovy Scoobcast, your go-to audio hub for all things Scooby-Doo.
So, the bears really slaughtered those dolphins last night, huh?
What? That's terrible. Who in their right mind would bring bears to the beach?
Hey guys, my name is Derek.
And I'm Shannon.
And this is our guest host, Stephanie Hubbard.
Hi.
Welcome, Stephanie.
We are so excited to have you on today. How are you feeling today?
Pretty good. I'm actually excited to be here, guys.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for those who can't read the title of this episode, we are reviewing Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins.
Woo!
I am so excited to talk about this movie. We all only watched it once, actually. We did not take notes. This is actually going to be a really experimental, fluid, I think, conversation about this movie today because there's a lot to unpack here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to be able to just freely talk because there's a lot to think and talk about.
Yeah, this movie came out, 10 years ago?
Yeah, it came out in 2009.
It did not age gracefully.
It's a piece. Stephanie, so before we really start talking about the movie itself, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on Scooby-Doo. What's your history with it? Did you watch it as a kid? What are your overall thoughts and relationship with this cartoon?
Yeah, so I did watch Scooby-Doo growing up. I watched Pup Named Scooby-Doo. I watched the Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Was that the first one?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
And then I think I watched the next one after that, which
Okay.
was that the
There's the Scooby-Doo movie, the new Scooby-Doo movies. After a Pup Named Scooby-Doo, there was What's New Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, that's the one I'm
Okay.
thinking about.
Yeah.
And then, is that the one that Simple Plan sings the theme song?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I love that one. And then, most of the, movies that came out when we were kids, I've watched most of those. I think Ghoul School is, one of my favorites.
Ghoul School. There you go.
We haven't reviewed it yet on this podcast, but we're all very much looking forward to it.
But from what I understand, you've never seen a live-action Scooby-Doo movie before.
Nope, I've never seen a live-action Scooby-Doo movie.
So this was a great introduction for you. How did you feel about it?
Just give me one word. I want to hear one word as to your thoughts about this movie.
Blah.
Fair. I mean, and it's... I kind of feel sad for you.
I pity you.
I pity you because, I mean, I won't acknowledge Scooby-Doo or Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed as great Scooby-Doo pieces of media.
Although they are, some of my favorite movies.
And they're substantially better than this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I'm actually very surprised that I've gone so long without actually seeing those because I remember, as a kid, most of my friends were like, oh my gosh, you have to see this movie, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what movie? And they're like, the Scooby-Doo movies. And I'm like, never seen those. And they're like, what's wrong with you?
and then people that are our age now are, always thinking back and like, oh my god, that movie was the shit. And then they watch it on Netflix and they're like, oh my god, it was shit.
I will say, I remembered this movie, but I didn't, remember it. I knew that the movie existed, so when we pulled it out and we were like, this is the one we're gonna watch, I was like, okay, I know it, but I don't remember it.
A little bit of background, guys. Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins is supposed to be a origin story for the Mystery Inc. group. It came out on September 13th, 2009, which marked the 40th anniversary of Scooby-Doo. It's really fun that we're talking about it now, given that this is the 50th anniversary of the franchise. And it's interesting just to see how this movie was supposed to be the celebration of this cartoon after 40 years.
Yeah, they did not do a good job.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Steph, I feel real bad that this is your very first introduction to a live-action rendition of Scooby-Doo because it doesn't really stack up, in my opinion, to the first theatrical movies. And you gotta remember, too, this movie came out for the TV.
Yeah.
It aired on Cartoon Network. It was not ever in a movie theater.
Yeah. And so they probably weren't focused on selling tickets.
No, it was made for TV.
And I'm sure they already had, the slot and everything, so they were like, if this flops, we don't really care.
No, instead they made a sequel.
Yeah, that too. Well, and the thing is, like, they came out because, you know, Fred, we have a running joke on the podcast of we're wet for Fred. And they cast Robbie Amell, who was, like, the teen heartthrob.
Yes.
Yum.
So, yeah, so it definitely, like, we were definitely wet for Fred before we knew what wet for Fred meant. So, you know, it's cute, but, you know, 14-year-old me was all about this movie.
Oh, yeah, me as a 13-year-old, I was so excited to watch this movie because, like, you could consider A Pup Named Scooby-Doo as, like, an origin story in a way. Mm-hmm. But prior to this movie, I don't think that there would ever really been a origin story, like an official one for the Scooby-Doo gang.
And the thing is, like, as much as I love A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, I kind of always just assumed that they did get together in high school.
So you kind of considered A Pup Named Scooby-Doo a different canon.
Yeah. Like, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo is cute. I love it, but, like, I mean, in all reality, like, they're too young. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would never let my kid out after dark. But I always kind of just assumed, just the way that they all associate with each other, like, it kind of seemed like they had gotten together in high school. So this one I consider as, like, the first that I kind of accepted as canon, if that makes sense.
I guess, but in my, you know, we're not going to talk about this just yet. I want to introduce the listeners to at least the premise.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can start talking about the different categories that we're going to discuss today. Again, guys, we're not doing this in the normal conventional conversation that Shannon and I usually talk about, you know, our episodes and movies. We're going to do this a little different today. But we will provide you our premise like always. And this is usually always coming from Scoobypedia. Unjustly accused on staging a spooky practical joke complete with ghosts, 4 unlikely high school students and 1 Great Dane team up to clear their good names after they are suspended from school. The kids must now solve the mystery of the haunting of Coolsville High before their parents are informed that they were expelled. That premise doesn't do this justice at all.
No, not at all. Because they really don't get expelled until, like,
about halfway through the movie, I think.
Yeah, and then even then, like, they're really never officially expelled. And also,
well, they were, but the thing is with this premise is that it's kind of saying the whole reason that they're teaming up is because they were suspended, but the haunting started at the high school either before or, like, right when they were in detention on their first day.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they originally were put in detention because they, like, started a fight on the bus.
Yes, and then the haunting happened. So,
and then they got blamed for it.
Exactly.
I do want to talk about the bus scene and also the detention scene, because what cracked me up about the detention scene is it was very, like, beginning of Breakfast Club. If you guys have ever seen the Breakfast Club, like, it was very much that, because at one point when they're talking about how Shaggy gets tripped every day on the bus, and Fred goes, well, it's not like it's me who's doing it. And they're like, but you're not doing anything to stop it, you know, and he's my friend. What do you expect me to do? Like, I'm almost certain that word for word, like, that's said in the Breakfast Club. So I thought that was kind of funny.
We are going to start off with just our initial overall thoughts as the beginning of the discussion here. So, Shannon, how about you go first just with initial thoughts? Stephanie, I'm going to try not to interrupt you while you just talk out your initial summary and thoughts of the movie real quick.
I don't know. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I kind of hated it. But I don't know. The movie was very odd. I felt like they tried to grab a bunch of different forums from a bunch of different movies that seemed to work and be like, oh, let's throw them all together and see if that works. And I mean, it must have, because they got a sequel, but I don't know. It was by far not my favorite Scooby-Doo anything. But it wasn't god-awful.
How about you, Stephanie? What are your just overall thoughts on this movie as its own standalone piece of Scooby-Doo media?
Yeah, as this was my first live-action Scooby-Doo, I really wasn't sure what to expect about it. I would say that, like, it wasn't what I expected, but I wouldn't say it was bad. I mean, it probably wasn't the best either. I can definitely see that it wasn't, it probably does not compare to the 2 more popular Scooby-Doo movies.
I just gotta say, this movie has a really weird way of blending the cartoon elements of the show with a live-action world. The special effects are just wild in their attempts to do that. The characters have really stilted and awkward dialogue. And while I don't know, it's like, I feel like I'm just watching four people who have been told what the characters of Scooby-Doo are like, and then they just try to copy that without ever watching the show. Like, I feel like Robbie Amell, Kate Melton, Haley Kiyoko, and Nigma Plattis, I feel like they were all just like told, okay, so this is what Shaggy is like. And then was like, okay, you go do Shaggy without ever, like, having him watch a cartoon before of Scooby-Doo. So, like, they had just really weird dialogue.
Like,
I don't know.
Can I add on to that?
Go for it.
It almost seems like the writers of Scooby-Doo told the writers of this movie, like, hey, here's how we write the characters. Like, no one that had anything to do with this movie had ever seen Scooby-Doo before, possibly never even heard of Scooby-Doo before. So the writers were like, hey, Scooby likes to eat a lot. He's constantly stealing Shaggy's food. Shaggy's kind of awkward and he eats a lot, you know, and like told them how they write the characters. And then the writers wrote it and then told the actors, like, hey, here's what we wrote for you.
And
like,
they've also never seen a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Nobody knows what Scooby-Doo is. And it also would make a lot of sense with how they CGI'd Scooby. Like, they had never seen Scooby before, and they were like, I don't even think they know what a Great Dane is, and they were just like, yes, dog. Dog, bear dog.
Big brown dog with black spots. Dog. Even though, in my opinion, at some points he looked like a horse.
Yes.
But
he looks like a bear at sometimes, too. Like, he's just giant and thick.
Yeah.
He's thick with 3 C's.
Something I will applaud, though, in the writing, or not really maybe even the writing, it was just the direction of the movie, but there are a lot of Easter eggs that are planted in this movie that are supposed to be, I guess, fan servicey for a Scooby-Doo fan like myself, who kind of knows the history, and I don't want to say nuances, but, like, the things that are in Scooby-Doo that, like, call back to its history and its legacy. Examples being, like, on the side of the school buses, it said Coolsville High School 1969, and, you know, that being the year that the cartoon aired. Or at the end when, you know, they decide to solve another mystery, and Velma's like, I've heard about weird things going on at the Coolsville Museum.
Yeah.
And that being a reference to the Black Knight episode, even though County Museum, but okay. But anyway, but those little things that they throw in there to try and, like, be like, oh, hey, we know what Scooby-Doo is. Yeah. Like, great. Like, you probably just went on the Scooby-Doo Where Are You Wikipedia page itself and pulled like, little tidbits from that and, like, let's put this in the movie and let's make all the fans happy about it.
Like, what year did this happen? What was one of the first mysteries they did? Do mystery question mark.
So we'll kind of transition to, I guess, plot and mystery. So, like we said before, the premise doesn't really do this movie justice on Scoobypedia.
No.
If you read this, you have no idea what the fuck is going on. The movie kind of just starts off with Shaggy getting on the school bus. It's a regular school day. He's weird. Nick Pilatus has a really weird way of portraying this character.
Yes.
And he's super nervous, but not in the way that we know Shaggy to be nervous, like he's scared of ghosts. He's just a really nervous child. Like,
yeah, he's just got a lot of anxiety.
I guess
about
so,
him.
Right?
He's just like, he's not what I imagine Shaggy in high school.
Yeah.
He's kind of like an outcast.
Yeah.
Major outcast. He's
like,
weird.
Like, to the fact that the principal was like, are you sure you have friends? Are you okay?
Yeah. And, you know, him trying to find a seat on this bus. He's getting bullied by a friend of Fred's. We never get a name of the bully. I've even looked on Scoobypedia. There's no name on here, so he must be credited in the movie somewhere, but I didn't bother to look.
We didn't care about him that
I didn't
much.
care about him because he only appeared twice in the movie. But yeah, he gets bullied by Fred's friend. Fred is always kind of like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, like, I will say, like, because in detention, they make a comment about how Fred never does anything to stop him. And he doesn't, but then he also doesn't, like, persuade his friend to keep going. Like, every time his friend trips him, he's like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, but...
And, like, it's not helping.
No, it's not at all helping.
But it's not like he's laughing along with him or whatever. Like, every time he's like, dude.
But that doesn't make him better, in my opinion.
Oh, no, not at all.
That'd be like if I murdered Shannon right now.
And Stephanie was just like,
being like, hey, that wasn't cool. and then nothing happens. Like, she doesn't report me to the authorities or anything like, oh, yep, I did a thing. And, like, Fred's not a justifiable character here. And in my opinion, for a little while throughout this movie, he was kind of an asshole.
Oh, yeah. He was.
He was a fucking asshole.
Okay, and then let me talk about, like... Because I also want to talk about the chemistry between Fred and Daphne. Do we want to do that now or in a minute?
Let's do that in the character section. But Shaggy does, like, move on from being, you know, because he just got tripped on the bus, which just sucks. Imagining, like, the floor of this bus.
I can't
how
stand...
disgusting the high school bus was. He tries to sit next to Velma. Velma is talking about some science project thing she has created.
Which never comes into play.
Yeah.
I really thought it was going to, like, help them solve the mystery because she makes it twice. Or she, like... She's building it for the science.
It twice.
Yeah, she's building it for the science fair. So I thought it was gonna like come into play later on in the movie and have it like help solve the mystery. Like, hey, I happen to be building
that would
this.
make sense.
But like, it never does. We don't care about it. It got destroyed. She can't participate in the science fair,
and she's salty.
That's it. Yeah,
yeah, she's salty about it. Yeah. So Shaggy gets like immediately turned off by hearing Velma discuss this science project.
He gets up.
So he now goes to sit next to Daphne. So Daphne's in the middle of reading a script for what was it, Romeo and Juliet? She was reading.
It sounded like something Shakespearean.
Yes, and he asks her if he can sit with her. She was really willing to let him sit with her. She's like, yeah, let me just move my bed.
I'll be quite honest. I was a little surprised that because that's not something I was expecting from her character because.
What did you expect?
I guess I was expecting her to be kind of snobby.
Okay.
Because I got that Breakfast Club.
Which is funny because that's actually how Velma thought she was going to be too.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's because they come off very Breakfast Clubby. It's like, you know, you've got the brains, you've got the
pretty girl,
the princess, you've got the jock, and you've got the what is it?
Outcast.
Psychopath, I think is what she's called. The
basket case.
The basket
case, yes.
You know, so you're just missing the criminal, which is all of them because they sneak into the school and help blow it up. But, you know, that's besides the point.
Daphne's also, like, turned off by Shaggy once he's sat down because he tries to, like, eat this disgusting-looking sandwich. I forget what it was. Do you remember what kind of sandwich it was?
I don't think he said what it was, did he?
I think he did, but I don't remember.
Yeah, because she ended up getting up and moved over to where Velma was sitting, and Velma's still talking about her science project and didn't even notice that Shaggy laughed.
She, like, looks up and she's like, oh... Well, as I was saying...
Yeah, she's not even offended by the fact that Shaggy got up and just left.
Honestly, she's probably used to it.
So, you know, we cut over to the high school. We do learn that Shaggy is even more of an outcast when he does this whole hijinks where his locker won't open. He ends up in a trash can. It rolls into the principal's office. That's a straight shot.
Also,
into the principal's office.
Can we talk about that poor janitor?
No, because he's like saying he never wanted to be a janitor. Who the fuck ever wanted to be a janitor?
He's just like, this isn't what I wanted. I didn't want to be a janitor. And I was just like, oh, you poor soul. Like,
there's still time for you, sir.
I want to
go out there and live your dreams.
Like, I just felt so bad, and it was just so much. Like, I want to know his story. I don't give a fuck about the rest of this movie. How did he end up being a janitor?
You want to know this guy's origin story.
I don't care about the mystery.
You want to know Otis's origin story. We do meet this principal. He is turned on by the idea of stamps.
Misprinted stamps.
Well, he's a stamp collector in general, but yes, he does like misprinted stamps.
It's his kink.
Yes.
Hey, we don't kink shame on that.
Philately is fun.
Hey,
I wasn't kink shaming.
Philately. I hate that this is the driving force behind the plot.
Like, he's literally...
The philately is the actual reason this whole thing is happening.
Yeah.
So you gotta, like, think. This guy is so into stamps that he's willing to, like, summon ghosts and stuff just to get, like, stamps and such.
He didn't even need ghosts.
He didn't need
in
the
my
ghosts at all.
opinion.
Literally, okay, and we talk about this in every single mystery, that it would just be, they go the hard route.
Every time.
It would have been so much easier if he had just gone in after school, blown up the auditorium, gone down there, grabbed the thing, and gotten the fuck out, rather than, like, summoning ghosts, kidnapping the kids, making the kids go down. Like, it was so much more fucking work to do all of this bullshit, where, like, you're gonna go to jail because you, like, tried to blow up your own school and burn it down with, like, kids inside.
Right.
Like,
but also, the ghosts don't even really do anything. The ghosts, I guess, give everybody the idea that the high school was haunted, but, like, what does that do, ultimately, when you ultimately need to blow up the fucking auditorium, go down and find this time capsule, grab it, leave, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, the ghosts blew up the fucking floor?
okay, here's what he should have done. And I'm gonna take this page out of our high school. Plant a bomb threat and then blow up the school.
That went dark.
Yeah, please don't
That
do
went
that.
really dark.
No, but, like, you plant a bomb threat, and then everybody's like, I don't want to come to school because, like, the school's gonna blow up, so then nobody's there. And then even so, like, just blow it up after everyone leaves. You know, you're only blowing up the auditorium, or, like, that little bit in the floor to get down to the old school.
But realistically, sometimes schools don't even close for that. Like,
For bomb threats. No, I
They
know,
might
but I mean,
evacuate the school or lock
Yeah.
it. Well, no, they
Yeah.
wouldn't lock it down because there's a bomb threat. But would they lock it down?
for a bomb
feel-
threat?
Yeah.
No, I think that you would evacuate. If
yeah,
there
I
was a
think
bomb
I think
threat.
if they treat it like a fire drill.
Okay. I just think that the implementation of the ghosts, it was really just to service the idea of there being, you know, a haunting in a Scooby-Doo mystery.
Do you know what's insane, though? Is that those ghosts were real.
Yes, they were real. And I like when, at the end of the movie, when they've captured the principal, you know, okay, I don't know if we, like, explicitly said, yes, the principal is the main villain of the movie, guys. But after they've tied up the principal, he's about to go to jail, like, Shaggy just took the book, the spell book
And
that he used,
shoved it
and
behind him.
Yeah, he just shoved it behind him, and it's like, no, you need to submit that to a scientist.
Wait, can we back up just a minute with Shaggy and that spell book?
Let's hear it.
I think your theory is proven. Shaggy is a fucking wizard because
Oh, yeah.
he was spewing out all those spells.
Those spells worked for Shaggy.
I mean, but they worked for the principal too.
Well, maybe he's also a wizard.
So the principal's also a wizard.
I mean,
Okay.
we don't
He and
know
Shaggy
how
are
good this
related.
goes. Well, that's terrifying.
But yeah, he just chucks the book behind him, and it's like, no, you do not do that. That's one of a 3-book set that evidently works. Like, submit it to a scientist. Send it to Coolsville University, where
Give
the
it
librarian.
to Velma.
Well, I also like that the
Practice
books.
your craft.
That too.
Well, I like that these books are just available. Like, you can actually rent these books out of a high school, a public education high school.
I'm sorry, we couldn't even have Harry Potter at our
That's
high
what
school.
I was fucking thinking when I watched this movie.
Harry Potter was banned at our high school. Why the fuck do they have Wiccan books that work?
But see, okay, and then that librarian, she got a job offer at Coolsville University. And I'm like, give it to her and have her take it to Coolsville University to have a scientist look at it. Because it summons ghosts, and all those ghosts just terrorized Coolsville.
Yeah.
Like, all over Coolsville when Shaggy accidentally released all the other ghosts. So, like, okay, the whole town, for one, knows that ghosts are real.
Yeah.
Also, why is every ghost in existence evil?
No, because the ghosts get controlled by the people that summon them.
Yeah, but Shaggy is the one that summoned them.
Oh, yeah. and they
Shaggy's
are
secretly evil.
He was only using 0.3% of his power.
Did either of you catch the part when the ghosts were released from the spellbook, and we've already seen all the ghosts just terrorizing the town? I have 2 notes actually on this.
Okay.
The first is that there was a whole crowd of like
Wait,
young
is this
people.
going to be random observation?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, we're jumping a little bit around. It's okay. Yeah, he just like chucks that book, and it's like that book is like integral to this entire mystery. Like, the ghost could not have been in the story without it. and you're just going to toss it aside.
What also got me was then with the dynamite. So, like, they take the book, and then the principal's like, do you think that's gonna stop me? And holds up, like, fucking dynamite. And both Steph and I were just like, what the fuck? Like, excuse me?
Where'd you get this dynamite from? Your pocket?
He's just like, we're all fucking going down, bitches. Like...
But then, like, a second later, like, he throws it, and then they catch it.
Yeah, like, or I think Shaggy grabs it out of his hand or whatever, and he's freaking out.
And then Daphne pulls out the string.
It just throws that aside.
Well, yeah, so then she throws the string aside, which is still on fire, and then Shaggy chucks the dynamite behind him, and I'm like, that's still live? Like, maybe don't?
So let's kind of get back on the timeline of the movie and the mystery that's unfolding. So we've seen Shaggy, be... weird at school. Meanwhile, aside from the school, we do get to see a pet adoption fair. Scooby is at this pet adoption fair. He's evidently been there for months, maybe even years. I don't know.
I'm assuming since he was born.
Yeah, because he's like middle-aged, in my opinion, based on the way he acts and looks in this movie. And no one wants to adopt this dog. And I'm thinking, he's a talking dog. He juggles. He does hula hooping.
Yeah,
and all sorts of shit. Why doesn't anyone want to adopt him?
And I'm like, I want you.
Yes. Well, and then that girl is about to get him. And the dad's like, okay, this is the last time I tell you can get anything you want. Which, why are you telling your child that? But then... Scooby's all excited and starts licking the dad, and the girl goes hysterical.
Like, they literally acted like Scooby was ripping him apart. Which, I'm gonna be fair, like, from first glance, you don't know this dog, and he just pounces on you. Like, I would be a little nervous, too. But the second he starts licking you, like, calm the fuck down, bitch.
That girl was screaming her little head off.
Like, I'll be 100% real. My cousin has Great Danes, and yes, they will react like that to you. Like... They get excited, they're big, they'll, clobber you, but they are so gentle.
Mm-hmm. It is to be noted that Scooby is the only pet that did not get adopted that day.
Rude.
And...
They have a cage that is severely too small for him.
Way too small for him.
Animal abuse and cruelty.
Right, exactly. And I'm imagining them trying to get him in that cage. Because he can't just, walk in it. They had to have, picked him up and be like, okay, I need you to bend a certain way, move your leg, get in that cage. And then they just stuff him in the back of a pickup truck.
Now, let's talk about this pickup truck. Because obviously they don't know how to, close it properly. Because he falls out the back of it.
Well, that's because the driver wasn't paying attention, in my opinion, and jolted his truck because there's a lane closure up ahead. And really last minute, he's like, oh shit, there's a lane closure, and just swerves the truck. And that's what causes the back to open and Scooby to fall out.
Well, and can we also talk about, I don't know, is he the owner of the pet place? That he's like, Scoobert, today is the day that you're gonna get adopted. Mm-hmm. And then after the whole thing, he's like, Scoobert, you're gonna get adopted real soon, bud. I can feel it. I don't know if this dude was just, a fucking asshole or if he genuinely loves Scooby, but either way, I don't like him.
I mean, I think he's trying to help Scooby out, but he's also, because he's also anxious to get people to adopt him. He's just really? Oh my god, let me go get the papers. He was shocked when the dad was gonna take it.
That was the funniest thing. He was like, this dog? And he was like, yeah. He's like, we're really gonna be heartbroken to see him go. I'll go get the paperwork right now.
He's just so excited. I think he's just genuinely excited that Scooby's gonna get adopted.
My thought with it was because that one mom was like, he looks like he'll eat us out of house and home. And the guy was like, yeah. And I was like, so I think
it's true he would have.
So I'm pretty sure his reaction was like, you're gonna take him? Cool, we don't have to spend $7,000 a fucking day.
To feed this dog and he won't stop eating.
That's why he looks like a bear, because he just never stops eating.
My theory, they left the back of the truck open intentionally so they could lose him, so they no longer have to feed this dog.
Rude. Hashtag oops.
He ends up wandering into the town cemetery.
Which is just fucking great.
It is a really Halloween-style cemetery, in my opinion. No cemetery in the entire world looks like this cemetery.
The biggest thing is people take care of cemeteries. There are groundskeepers.
The cemetery looks like garbage.
This cemetery is from, the 1700s. nobody has touched this cemetery in like 9 centuries. Like,
nobody even knows anyone that's buried
yeah,
there.
like
no one alive knows anyone that's buried there.
I'm pretty sure that like Coolsville forgot that cemetery was there.
And Scooby's like really nervous because like there's a storm coming now. I'm assuming this is when the principal read the spell of the book, because then lightning shot out of the sky, electrified the 2 graves of the man and the woman, the male and female ghost, and then they just kind of like came about and they're like, ooh, let's go serve our new master.
So my biggest question is, because I know why he had the 2 of them raised, because they're the people that buried the time capsule.
Well, they were the founders of the original Coolsville High.
Yeah.
Their names were...
I don't care and I don't care.
Their names were Ezekiel Gallows and Prudence Proofrock.
Okay. My biggest thing with it is, though, is like, did he give all of his power just to raise the 2 of those? And how did he specifically pick those people? Because Shaggy just and like this backs up like Shaggy being a powerful wizard, because Shaggy didn't know what he was doing, accidentally just said the spell,
and it released every dead person that's ever died in Coolsville.
Every single dead person rose from the grave, and Shaggy was just like, well, shit, and then read another spell and it was all saved. But like the principal worked really hard to get those 2 people raised. Like, I want to know the situation behind there.
Maybe it's because he's not an actual wizard, and because you're not an actual wizard, you can only do so much with the book.
I wonder if that's kind of like Wiccan stuff. Like, maybe the principal's a Wiccan, so you have to wait for like a full moon, like a blood moon. You have to like have the candles. You really have to like hone your energy to like perform that, and you only get 2 people. But like, if you're a real wizard, like, you can just willy-nilly do whatever the fuck you want.
I just hate these ghosts in this movie.
They're not great.
They're not cool to look at.
Yeah, and we'll talk about special effects in a little bit, but in terms of their actual function in the story, I found them so fucking useless.
Yeah.
They don't contribute to anything other than the illusion that the high school's haunted. When, in my opinion, they're really just dicking around terrorizing the gang.
Yeah.
You know, because they're terrorizing them even when they're not at the school. Because they pop out of some things that are in Shaggy's bedroom at one point. Yeah. And then they also follow them to the vice principal's mansion. So it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Let me say, because by that point, I'm sure the principal was on to the gang. So he probably told them to keep an eye on him. That's kind of what I assumed happened, was he was like, hey, keep an eye on the gang.
Then what's the fucking point of even having them? Because they're not even at the high school, haunting the high school.
Get regular henchmen.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then again, you have to pay regular henchmen.
And also, they can be prosecuted in a court of law.
Yeah, these ones are just ghosts. Like, in which case, if I say that I had ghost henchmen, I could probably also plead insanity.
But also, if they had just kept the ghosts at the high school, the gang could not have figured out who done it, essentially, because they're ghosts. Like, there's nothing to unmask or no one to point to as a suspect. Like, they're fucking ghosts. You can't solve the mystery at this point. The mystery is, there's actual real ghosts in the high school. I can't do anything about it because for some reason the principal didn't check out all 3 of these magical books that are in the library. He instead left 2 of them, took the 3rd one alone, and it's just like, I'm gonna have these ghosts follow the teenagers that are trying to solve my mystery instead of actually trying to do what I'm trying to accomplish here, which is make the high school look like it's haunted.
Well, and the biggest thing, too, is when he told, like, the ghosts, keep an eye on the gang and, like, pick on the gang, whatever, that's what caused the gang to find out that there wasn't a 3rd ghost. Because until then, they thought that the principal was a 3rd ghost and everything was fine. But then, like, second that they got chased by the ghosts in the high school, so, like, had he just told the ghosts, like, hey, leave all of the students alone, just dick around and make the school look haunted, like, it would have been fine. But because the ghosts started chasing the gang, they ended up in the theater, and then that's when they saw it. Now, granted, Daphne was in theater, so sooner or later she probably would have stumbled on it, but...
Here's an easy way to remedy the fact that Daphne identified, a familiar costume to the fake ghost costume in the costume room. How about you just not dress up at all? how about you just tell the ghosts to tell the student body, get out of the fucking high school. We're haunting this place.
Or here's the thing. Ghosts can travel through walls. Why not just have them go down to the old high school and get the thing for you?
But they couldn't bring it through the ground.
I mean,
it's a physical object.
They might be able to transform it as well. I don't know.
You don't know the rules of this world.
Excuse me, are you a ghost?
No, but I'm a wizard. You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. But I just think it would have been easier if the principal had just told the ghost, hey, I want you to chase these kids into the pep rally, which is when he was dressed up as the fake ghost and made the announcements like, get out of the high school, I'm haunting this place and all of that. But I think it would have been easier if he just told the ghost to chase the kids into the pep rally, go up onto the stage, and just be like, hey, we're actual ghosts. Get the fuck out. That's all he had to do. He did not have to don this fake ghost costume when he has 2 real ghosts at his disposal.
Well, and then also just the fact that, it would have made more sense because the fact that no one put 2 and 2 together that the principal was the fake ghost, because everybody was at that pep rally except the principal.
Yes, he was. He was on the stage.
Well, yeah, but not when the real ghost was there.
Not there was anybody else. They're all in the crowd, and then the lights go off. No one could actually identify whether or not the principal was present, because they had just saw him on the stage.
Yeah, okay. No, you're right. Okay.
That was a fast, quick change.
Yeah. He had to have that ready somewhere. It's so much harder than just having the real ghosts just tell the school themselves that it's haunted.
Yeah. I don't know.
So much more convoluted than it needed to be. So, the reason why the gang is brought together, in general, Breakfast Club style, they get into a fight on the bus because Shaggy decides to bring Scooby to school after they meet. The way they met is just Scooby stumbled into Shaggy's room in the middle of the night because he was scared of the ghosts in the cemetery. Yeah. Don't really want to cover that all too much. But they're on the bus. Shaggy gets tripped by the jock, Fred's friend. Scooby's pissed about it. So then Scooby goes and bites the jock from underneath the bus seats. The guy is about to punch Scooby.
And then Shaggy jumps on him and is like, that's my dog! And then for some reason, Fred gets up. Fred gets pushed into Velma's science project. And then somehow, maybe she pushes him.
Because at this point, he's, rolled over. I think he's, on top of the jock guy.
Yeah. Well, no, because then, somehow, maybe he kicks up or something. Somehow Daphne's papers go flying everywhere.
That too.
So then the two, Daphne and Velma are beating the shit out of Fred. And
for 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And then Shaggy is just, hanging on to the jock, and the jock's, hanging on to Scooby. And then the bus driver
is distracted, almost kills a bunch of kids at the school. Swerves, hits the flagpole. The flagpole falls into the windshield of the vice principal's brand new car.
Brand new Mustang.
I don't care. It's a brand new car.
It's fucking expensive.
Regardless, if it was a car, any car, your car, you would be pissed.
I would be pissed.
Oh, 100%.
I don't give a fuck if it's a nice car. No, that's my fucking car.
That's what I use to get around.
And so he, goes to the bus, looks at... And I like that he looks at the bus driver, and the bus driver's just
I like that his first question was, who is responsible for this?
Who's responsible? It's you're the fucking bus driver. So he goes, who's responsible? And the bus driver literally just, points behind him these motherfuckers.
So did all the other kids on the bus, though. They all pointed at them.
And tell me why everyone got in trouble except for the jock
I was just about to ask that question.
Who fucking started it.
Yeah.
I hope he got expelled. I hope that there was no detention. I hope he just flat out got expelled. And that's why we never saw him again.
I'm willing to accept that theory because I like that they played up this idea that at some point in the movie, Fred's going to step up for Shaggy against that character, which I would have liked to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that never happened because you never see that character after this scene.
Yeah.
And this is really early in the movie, too. This is in the first, I think, third of the movie at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, because we literally never see him again. And granted, we're never on the bus again. But I'm willing to think that, that kid got expelled. Because technically he is the one that kind of started it.
But you would think that it would have gotten mentioned then.
I mean, not really. It's a TV movie.
I don't know. they do end up getting detention. They are told that they will be spending 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, in this library for 6 weeks.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot. But also, I had a weird, comment to say about this scene. Mm-hmm. The librarian was really pissed about this situation because she's the one that has to watch these stupid kids. Illiterates, she calls them, which is really presumptive of you, miss. But anyway, she walks off all pissed, and she says that they cut her budget, and now she has to hang out with these illiterates. I have 2 questions. What is her budget for?
New books?
Why does she fucking care?
Repairs?
But why does she care? It's her job. It's not her livelihood or anything like that.
I mean, she gets paid.
Yeah, but that leads to my second question. She better be getting fucking paid for this, because if she is there with these children for 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday for 6 weeks, that's 10 extra hours a week on top of what you're already working.
So I'm going to be honest, it depends. Because I know most schools don't pay the teachers that do detention. That's why it's all voluntary, because most teachers are either salary. Most teachers are salary, and so you don't get paid for all the extra work. So that's why, if a teacher is willing to stay after school to, help you study or whatever, that's big, because they're not getting paid for it.
But then my next question is, does the librarian have a salary? She's not a teacher.
I'm going to say so. Because she was so pissed off, I'm going to say maybe.
But then... also, detention is a voluntary thing. Why is she being obligated to do this?
Because the vice principal is an asshole. Which is also what brings me to we always say that there is a villain and there is an asshole. And the vice principal
is the asshole.
Yeah.
Yes. We were kind of given the janitor and the librarian from Shaggy to be suspects in this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that he never once thought that the vice principal might be also a suspect, because he's just being a fucking asshole to them the entire movie. But you're right. He's not the villain, so he's just a fucking dick.
Yeah.
Because he immediately suspends them after the pep rally when the ghosts do make their whole scene, and you're like, get out of the fucking school, and they're all suspended. And then he also expels them later on with no actual evidence that they perpetrated any of the things that happened at the school. Later on, they break into the high school. The ghosts terrorize them the entire time. Daphne and Velma get chased out one entrance of the school. Fred goes out another. The ghosts, blow up the front of the school. There's fire tornadoes and shit. And it's got their faces. Scooby and Shaggy got locked in the freezer.
Yeah, so that's how they got busted.
They would have died.
In reality, being left there overnight, you would have been dead. Because they didn't have any blankets or anything. There was no warmth. You would have died.
They said they ate all the ice cream, and I don't feel like that would have helped.
No, not at all. That would have made it... You would have died sooner.
But I like that the vice principal didn't, stop to think, okay, they're locked inside of a freezer. How did they do that? And why would they do that?
Yeah.
They're perpetrating crimes in his eyes at the high school, and then get themselves locked in a freezer?
Yeah.
This guy has no evidence, no logic. I think he just hates these kids.
Well, and that's the thing is at the end of the movie, too, he's, so nice to them. And he's like, I'm so sorry that I misjudged you. And, you guys are actually, really cool. And, I'm sorry. And it's just fuck you.
I would have fought you all the way to the school administration.
Also,
you have no fucking evidence against me.
Stephanie, I have a legal question.
Stephanie is our legal expert, guys. Yeah. She's not actually a lawyer,
really
but
not, though.
But she does know some stuff.
Stephanie is that Groovy Scoobcast lawyer, so fuck with us.
Ha, that's funny.
No, so my question is, because, when they're in detention and they're all complaining about, the time spent there, the vice principal says, you're lucky all you got was detention, and I'm not suing your parents for the damages on my car. Is that a thing? Can he do that?
I mean, technically, if he wanted to, he could.
But I think that they would have to justify that the bus driver was sufficiently distracted, because the bus driver is the one that drove into the flagpole that was knocked into the windshield.
Torts are weird. I hate tort law. It's a lot of work. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone were to be prosecuted, it would have been the bus driver.
Yeah. And, like, my thing is, like, in the line of blame, I would put bus driver, idiot jock, Scooby, and then the rest of the gang.
I wouldn't blame Scooby. He's a dog. I would blame Shaggy for bringing him on the bus.
I'm gonna sue a dog.
Actually, yeah. I'm gonna put... But Scooby's
Scooby's a legal citizen in our eyes, remember? He can vote.
Scooby is a little... No, yeah, it has been proven that Scooby can vote.
Scooby can vote in the Scooby-Doo universe. He is a legal citizen of this universe.
Yeah.
Because he got sued in Shaggy Busted.
Yeah.
He was literally in jail in Shaggy Busted. Yep, so he can fully get sued.
Never mind, he can get sued.
Yeah, so in my line, it's going to go bus driver, idiot jock, Scooby, Shaggy, the rest of the gang.
Okay.
Because bus driver, you need to do your job and not drive into things.
Almost killing children at the high school.
Idiot jock, maybe don't hit kids. Scooby, maybe don't bite people.
Shaggy, don't bring your dog to school.
Shaggy, maybe don't bring this new dog that you don't know to a school where you don't have any friends.
You don't know if he's got his shots.
Yes. And the rest of the gang, maybe go to therapy. Because y'all got some real anger issues.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on, like, them investigating the high school at this point?
No.
Okay. They did get expelled. They sneak back into the high school again, disguised as different children. I keep calling them children. They're not children, but...
They are children.
We'll just call them children.
So, like, Daphne dresses herself up as a gothic girl.
She's not cute.
Fred is, like, a gangster rap kid, I guess.
He's white trash.
White trash.
He sags his pants.
Yes.
White trash. Did you mean white trash?
Velma is just hot.
Okay, my issue with Velma, and I love it, it's just, like, Velma doesn't have boobs. Velma is very much like an A-B cup, and, like, they really tried to give her cleavage, like, really, really hard, and it's funny. It's, like, she's in high school.
Yeah, but then when Daphne does her makeover, she's gorgeous.
No, she is really pretty.
But that's what I'm saying, it's just like, her disguise is she's just hot.
Yeah, she's just a hot
She
chick.
wasn't hot before, she's hot
Shaggy,
now.
Fred, and Scooby were, like, all...
Yabba dabba do over her.
Yes. Speaking of Scooby and Shaggy, they are disguised as trash cans, rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Well, I remember when you saw a GIF of this scene where they're all, like, walking together, like, in, like, a line into the school, and you're like, I want to know what this is from. It's like, it's from the movie we're about to watch in, and just wait.
Just wait. My funny thing, like, what I really wanted, and oh no, the movie wasn't out yet. What I really wanted was Scooby and Shaggy to be dressed as bushes. Because Stephanie hasn't seen the movie yet.
Oh, you haven't seen that movie, yes.
In one of the lines...
No, don't spoil it. She hasn't seen them yet.
But you guys know.
You guys know. Damn, Bush is yelling at me again.
Damn, Bush is yelling at me again. Yeah.
Before they enter the school, though, they all see Vice Principal Grimes approaching them, and they're all, like, about to panic.
They panic. So Shaggy and Scooby, like, duck down and put their trash cans down.
Velma jumps behind the trash cans.
And then Daphne's standing there and she's like, and then grabs Fred and just starts making out with him. And then the vice principal walks by and is just like, hey,
no PDA.
And then he's like, young man, pull your pants up. So we share their first kiss. It was super awkward. Throughout this entire movie...
Daphne initiated it, by the way.
Daphne did. And also keep in mind that just yesterday, Fred told her that she wasn't that hot. So...
Hey, she was still wet for Fred.
I mean, that's fair.
Both the girls are. We'll get to that in the character comments. Yeah. But
it was just like, throughout this entire movie, there is no sexual tension between any of them. So the fact that in my opinion, it was a very, like, unwarranted kiss.
Yeah.
Like, it was just weird and out of place, and I didn't like it.
When they get into the school, they split up. Shaggy and Scooby are kind of just scoping out the janitor for a moment to see what he's up to. And then they, like, signal Daphne and Fred to go follow him into the boiler room, where they discover that he's auditioning for, I'm guessing, like, America's, like...
It was, like...
It was a dance competition.
Yeah, it was a dance competition.
Yeah.
He wanted to be a dancer. That was his dream. But no, it was a janitor.
Like America's Next Dancer or something like that.
Yeah. Fred accidentally, like, bumped something, and it made a noise, and the janitor did see them. And he's like, you darn kids! And he's like, okay, take 2. So I'm happy that he didn't give up on his dreams.
I felt so bad. Like, that's where I'm just like, this poor janitor. I need his story.
Otis.
Poor Otis.
Velma goes into the library to investigate the librarian. Mm-hmm. And that's when she discovers the other 2 books of the 3 book set. The librarian comes back into, like, the office where these books are being kept. So I'm imagining that the librarian, like, intentionally keeps these books out from, like, being able to be rented by students. Like, she's keeping them for herself.
Cause.
Yes,
they
right.
are Wiccan books. Like, maybe that's where all the banned books are.
Oh, like a restricted
like
section in Harry Potter.
Yeah, so there you go. So Harry Potter's in there.
Okay.
There you go.
The librarian does come back in, and she's like, what are you doing in here? And Velma pretends to be an exchange student.
Now, in this movie, Velma is Asian.
Yeah,
so
she's portrayed by Hayley Kiyoko.
So it would make sense for her to, like, throw in any Asian language, and instead she chooses Russian.
I like to believe that Velma knows Russian.
I mean, I'm sure, I'm positive she does. Although in this case,
part of Russia's in Asia.
Yeah, but like,
I mean, we don't hear a lot about Asia, Russia.
But that's if you're to believe that that's where she's from, which I don't think she is.
Because she was speaking like she was from Moscow.
Yes.
Which I know.
Oh yeah, they did talk about Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but my biggest thing with it is that, first off, the librarian went to Moscow.
Yeah,
and so she knows Russian.
She knows Russian.
And, like, I would love to believe that Velma knows Russian. And any other Velma, I would believe that.
But not this one?
This one specifically, because she kind of looks really confused. And she kind of just picks bits of Russian that she knows. And comes out with, wouldn't it be funny if you had no nose? Which is, like...
But I like to interpret that she does know Russian because she did understand what the librarian said to her.
Oh, that is true.
That was her response as a joke.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then, like, the librarian laughs and is just like, yeah, I love Russian humor.
But she does manage to get away with the books. They all reconvene at Shaggy's house, and they are, like, going through these books because, like, the 3rd book is missing, and that's the book that allows the villain to summon the ghosts. They now have the vice principal as a suspect because I guess his name is the last person who evidently rented out these books. I'm assuming that was planted by the principal.
Yeah.
Other theory is the vice principal is also committing supernatural crimes, but...
like, I want to know...
That's a story for another day.
I wonder because, like, when they go to the vice principal's house, he's very obsessed with war.
World War II.
With World War... So I'm wondering if maybe he used that spirit spell to, like, summon World War II veterans and, like, just talk to them about the war. Like, he was using it so fucking innocently and then, like, returned the book and then the principal stole it because he didn't sign it out. So he stole the last one. Okay.
I just like to imagine he's just also committing supernatural crimes that are unrelated to this.
He's innocent.
He's a fucking asshole, Shannon. Do not defend this guy. Yes, he has a hobby. I do too.
We're doing it right now.
Podcasting.
Yes, and you know what? I'm an asshole. So I am willing to believe that this guy is also an asshole with his hobby.
Okay.
Is that like a requirement for having a hobby? You have to be an asshole?
Yes.
Only you have to be an asshole about your hobby.
Okay.
That's why we force our friends to do this with.
Fair enough.
They do decide to go to the vice principal's house to investigate him. Notably, his house is on top of Coolsville Mountain.
It's also called the Old Spooky House.
So, let me ask a question. I just want to know what, like, the, what's the word? The typography? No. The elevation of this...
Topography.
I
think it's called topography.
Okay. I just want to know the elevation of this town, because at one point it flooded, but there's also a mountain in it.
And it's all in Ohio.
Where's the mountain in Ohio?
Fucking Ohio.
It is established in 2 different ways that this is in Ohio. For one, 3 ways. One is when Shaggy was given the Philately is Fun brochure from the principal at the beginning of the movie, the back of it said something about Ohio.
Can I also say... Oh, no, go ahead. Okay, sorry.
The second thing is that Shaggy reveals to the gang that he has his license. None of the others do because they're too young. So it's weird to think that they're all 15 except Shaggy, who was held back twice.
So he's
which
17.
means he's 17 years old in this movie.
That's like a senior dating a freshman. Like,
yes.
Excuse me, Shaggy, please.
But then the last thing is that when they're all in the gardening, utility van that they end up using to get to the mountain, Fred is just like, prove that Ohio rightfully gave you your driver's license and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, and they're going to a mountain.
But no, seriously, a mountain.
No, you have a
flood?
really good question there because this is all really confusing.
And I also want to say, like, when the principal gave him that pamphlet at the beginning of the movie, it really reminded me of, do you remember in Glee, Emma?
Oh, with all of her fucked up brochures she had for the kids.
And she always had a brochure that was perfect. And I was just like, I bet that's what this principal does. It's like he'll open it up and just have like, so you have STDs. Or like, so your girlfriend was talking to your best friend about his girlfriend. Like, it's just like, I bet he has just 1,000 useless motherfucking like.
And one of them is philately
that are just very oddly specific.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reference to Scooby-Doos or Scooby-Don'ts. So, yeah, that is a good point, though, is that there's a mountain, there's a flood. The reason, so this flood, we haven't really talked about it. According to research that Velma did after they discovered the graves in the cemetery that were related to the founders of the original Coolsville High School, Coolsville Academy, as they called it. The high school and the rest of the original Coolsville town was destroyed by the Erie Dam, I guess.
Yeah.
Lake Erie, I'm imagining. The dam blew and it flooded the entire town. And then they rebuilt the new town over the old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting to me now that you've pointed that out.
But that means that we can almost pinpoint where Coolsville is.
Yeah, it's neat. Well, I think the sequel to this movie, they do have a map. They have a transition scene in that movie where it shows them traveling to Lake Erie, where the rest of that movie takes place.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it has to be right by the dam if it still flooded your town enough to, destroy the town.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine it's somewhere in the northeastern area of the state. We could drive there within 3 hours right now.
Let's fucking do it.
Let's go to Coolsville, guys.
Okay. You can take my car.
That's fine, because my car doesn't need to see Ohio.
You know what? Never mind. We're not taking my car.
They decide to use Daphne's gardener's utility van.
That she gets when she's 16.
Yes, to go to the mountain, because they can't ride their bikes up there because it'll take all night. A couple notes about this that were kind of interesting is that they all sneak into Daphne's house without, her parents knowing that they're going to do this.
Yeah.
They pass a bunch of super nice fucking cars, and then Fred super disappointed to see that what they're actually going to be driving is a piece of shit.
My favorite thing about that is just that Daphne's line is, well, just because my parents are rich doesn't mean I get everything I want. Which is funny because just at the beginning of the movie,
there was that girl
that literally the line was, "That's the last thing I tell you. You can get anything you want."
Maybe Coolsville is Crystal Cove, where just everybody is rich.
I'm assuming. Well, maybe not, because I don't think the rest of the gang are rich.
In Mystery Incorporated, yeah, all of them are pretty much well off. Shaggy lives in a fucking mansion.
No, I mean in this one.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking that Coolsville is also a rich city. They're
rich in floods and death.
Well, if you want to interpret this movie as a prequel to Scooby-Doo 2 and in the other Scooby-Doo movie, Coolsville's a metropolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do imagine that this city is rich.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they take the van and Shaggy drives into trash cans and the lights come on in the house. It's Daphne's parents are awake. And then they just keep driving and nothing is ever made of that again.
My parents would have called me and been like,
yes.
What the fuck is going on?
Uh-huh. They get to the vice principal's house. They're haunted by the ghosts. When they're walking outside of the house, that's when they get confronted by the principal in his costume. He uses a spray to knock them all out. I like that the gang just stood there and let him do that to them.
On them or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It was some green
Well, no, it was the same material that he used for, like, the smoke screen in the
But it
pep
knocked
rally.
him out.
Yeah, it knocked him out. Well, they made a note of that. They said that same chemical stuff has that same effect on people, that it can make you drowsy.
Oh, okay.
But I just like that they just all stood there and let him do that. So, like, they didn't run. You don't know what the fuck he's spraying you with. Run away.
Like, they were just like, so this is happening.
They all wake up.
This is fine.
They all wake up in the auditorium of the school. There's a huge fucking hole in the ground, and they kind of already have figured out that what the ghost is after is the time capsule that never really got buried.
And at this point, they're almost convinced that it's the vice principal.
Yes. And that's when we learn that, like, the fake ghost, he, like, is on the stage, and he's like, if you don't go down into this hole and get me that time capsule, you'll never see your dog again. So we see Scooby in a dog cage.
And again, it's a very small dog cage.
But then also, he reveals that he is also not Vice Principal Grimes, because Vice Principal Grimes is also in a dog cage.
I died. When that happened, I screamed out, and I was just like, what the fuck is that?
Did you notice that he had a conch on his head? Like, he was bleeding.
Like, someone hit him and, like, stuffed him into the cage.
The skinny, short little principal guy, who seems like a wimp compared to this Vice Principal, like, clonked him on the head.
And then, like, tied him up, duct taped
Gagged
his mouth,
him. Yeah.
and shoved him in a tiny dog cage. Oh, fucking K.
Okay. And I'm also thinking about the logistics of this. So, this principal guy knocked all of the gang out. They're all on the ground, unconscious.
And he carried them.
Yeah, he had to have carried them, like, into his car, one by one. Yeah, individually, because he also had to carry the dog.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a spell in the book.
Oh, that levitates people.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, without the ghost, he just piled all of them one by one into his car, drove them back to the high school,
no seatbelts,
unloaded them all into the high school one by one,
Blew up the floor,
also put Scooby in a cage, and also has the vice principal also in a cage.
I'm guessing he got the vice principal before the kids went to his house.
Yeah.
So that poor vice principal has been in that cage for like 3 hours.
Yes.
Hopefully he has a newspaper or something so he can go to the bathroom.
Oh, no.
So sad.
Stephanie did not need to say that. So at this point, I'm also thinking, there's already the hole in the ground, and we know that the ghosts can levitate things.
Yeah.
So instead of, like, what you suggested earlier, where the ghosts, like, go down and just get it, why don't they just levitate it at this point? Because there is a hole in the ground now.
So, like, just go get it.
I mean, or if you just wanted to make it a lot more simpler without all of the ghost conjuring stuff, just go get it your fucking self.
Are freaking lazy.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because we do see them playing cards at one point.
Like,
I mean, let's also be honest. Once I die, like, I'm not doing shit. So, like, if you bring me back and try to make me do stuff, like, I did that.
Well, no, but that's part of the spell.
Derek,
you said earlier that the spell makes you serve your master who summoned you. So
I'd be really pissed. Like, I worked.
I'm trying
for, like,
to rest
80 years. Yeah, like, just give me a fucking break, and then you bring me back, and you're like, do my bidding. Like, fuck you.
Get me a stamp.
Yeah. Go down there and get me a stamp that you put in the time capsule. I want it. Like, fuck you.
Okay.
I'm trying to play cards and enjoy my retirement.
I'm going to bring this part up, and it baffled me when I'm thinking about the logistics of this, because I didn't think about this as a kid. The new high school and the rest of the town were built over the old town that got destroyed by the flood.
Yeah.
Correct.
Why is the original high school, for one, intact and also underground?
It's a thing. It happened. I don't know.
Okay, so they do the gang does get sent down there against their will, so they can see Scooby again and have him not be harmed.
Which was a really cute moment, because Shaggy steps up and he's like, well, he's my dog. Like, I love him. I would do anything for him. Which is funny because he met him 2 days ago, but, like, that's its own thing. But then, like, Fred's like, you know, I feel like he's my dog too. And then Daphne goes, you know, yeah, I like him. Like, he feels like my dog.
I like him.
And then Velma is me. She goes, well, he's smelly, slobbery, and gross, and I'm kind of more of a cat person, but he is the cutest dog I've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah, same. And, like, but it was a cute, like, little bonding moment for them.
They do go down into the underground school by rope. There's a giant snake down there.
There were snakes everywhere.
I almost...
Like...
Yeah.
Like, why?
Why anything about this movie? But they do eventually find it. And I don't really have anything else to say really about the story, because like everything else is kind of just simple. Scooby comes and saves the day.
They unmask
the villain. Yeah. It's the principal.
He did it all for
that stamp that's inside the time capsule, which is evidently the most valuable stamp in the world.
And it's also a misprint.
And it's a
misprints are really valuable.
Yeah, but
so I'm assuming maybe this is like a 1 in a million misprint.
Yeah, but is it as valuable as the stamp in the Masked Manx?
Is it also valuable enough to justify like prison? Question mark?
You know, domestic terrorism and also summoning of ghosts.
Question mark?
There's layers to this crime.
Like, you did a lot of fucked up shit, sir. I just hope it's worth it.
I think the judicial system would have fun with this case.
Yes. That kind
of work and ask, like... So if I were to blow up a school, summon ghosts, and kidnap some kids...
I'm pretty sure they are panicking at the first thing you mentioned there.
That kind of really is pretty much the plot and the mystery. Yeah. Like, that's everything that pretty much summarizes the events of the movie. Do either of you have anything to add on to that? No. I guess discussion category? Okay. Next, I just kind of want to discuss characters in the cast.
Yep.
We'll just talk about the main 5 here. Their actors and I guess their story arcs / relationships with each other. So let's start off with the elephant in the room, Scooby-Doo.
He looked like a bear.
Yeah, Scooby's not cute. Like, Scooby's cute in, like, most of what they do. Even when he, like, looks fucked up, he's still, like, you can tell he's a dog. You can tell he's a Great Dane. In this movie...
I wasn't expecting him to be as animated as he was. Mm-hmm. I was expecting him to look a little more realistic.
I really do think that the Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 movies... That version of Scooby looks so much fucking better.
Yes.
Now, granted, the animation has not aged well in either case. Mm-mm. And also, the Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 movies had a substantially bigger budget than this one. But he looks awful.
Yeah.
Everything he does is awful.
Yeah, at one point he was running and I was just like, your legs are bending in all different directions.
Yeah.
It's almost like a first-year animation student did this.
Yes. And I'm going to kind of call back to a comment I made earlier where I said this movie has a weird way of blending cartoon elements of the show with a live action setting.
Yeah.
Because, like, okay, for instance, when we first see the 2 real ghosts pop up out of their graves and Scooby freaks out about it, his eyes, like, bulge out of his head. And it's hideous looking for this kind of movie where it's supposed to be live action, and yet the only things that are like fake in the movie or like, you know, added by special effects are Scooby and the ghost, and Scooby looks fucking awful.
Yeah, like even the ghosts look better than Scooby,
but they also look awful.
No,
we'll get to effects in a little bit too.
What also really pissed me off, just animation wise, is like when Scooby and Shaggy first got trapped in the freezer
in their eyes. Yeah, you
could tell that Shaggy's eyes were animated too, and personally, like, that was just an unnecessary thing.
I just would have rather it just be solid black.
Yeah,
no dark, no seeing of the eyes, just be a black room.
Yeah.
How about his character? How do you guys think he stacked up in terms of contribution to the story?
I'm gonna be honest, Scooby really was unnecessary in this movie.
Yeah, I would agree, too. I mean, I think at one point, like, I think they were starting to investigate where the ghosts were coming from, and, like, they used Scooby to, like, locate the cemetery. Yeah. But then after that, like...
He was unnecessary. Until, like, the very end, when he's the reason we're all doing this. Like, it was just, like... He was really just a pawn in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you also think about it, the only reason why they ended up getting detention is because Shaggy brought him onto the bus.
Yeah.
And he started a fight with the bully. And that instigated the entire fight that caused the bus crash. But, like, if Scooby hadn't been there, the bus crash never would have happened, the gang never would have gotten detention, and they all would have lived their lives like they were in the beginning of the movie.
And the movie would be boring.
The movie wouldn't happen.
Plot.
But I'm also going to say, like, if they wanted this movie to happen without an animated dog, or, like, without Scooby in it, like, they could have. They could have found another reason for that fight to happen and whatever. Like, I'm like...
So Scooby's just ultimately a really replaceable element of the movie.
Like, he wasn't
in general.
necessary in my eyes, which is a bummer because I love Scooby.
Mm-hmm. And I guess a weird thing to think about, too, is this is an origin story.
Yeah.
And this movie does a lot more focusing on the main 4 characters as opposed to Scooby, which I guess is interesting. Like, I think that it's valuable to have the 4 characters be fleshed out and we're not just focusing on the dog. But the thing is, the dog completely takes the back burner.
Yeah. Well, and it's also a bummer because they make Fred, Daphne, and Velma, like, the main characters. And I even feel like Shaggy is like a back burner character also.
Which is weird because he's the first character we meet in the movie.
Because, like, even at one point when all of them are sitting in the back of the van and they're all laughing and they're bonding, and then Shaggy, like, tries to join in and he's like, well, what about me? And everyone's like, yeah, I don't think we get you yet. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, well, fuck you guys.
So Shaggy's still kind of an outcast character in this movie. Yeah. And it's interesting to note, too, that Scooby is still being voiced by Frank Welker, like, normal at this period of time. So he's the only one who has consistently, been on the Scooby-Doo cast. He's even still going to be voicing Scooby in the 2020 film. So it had to have been interesting with him voicing this character, working with these new people after, because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even think he voiced Scooby in the other live action films. I don't think that he did.
I don't think he did either.
And I'm just wondering what that dynamic was like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if he ever met...
he definitely met them, but it's just weird for me to think about him voicing this character and never actually having to be in the same room or anything like that with the main other 4 characters.
It's a bummer because I think if, they had... You can tell he really, didn't have much influence on the characters, which is a bummer because they definitely needed it.
Well, he also felt disconnected. Yeah. I don't know if either of you two noticed this, but a lot of the times when we were seeing Scooby, you weren't seeing the other 4 characters. Yeah. It would be a cutaway, or they would all, so the main point of the movie where I noticed this was actually at the end, when Shaggy gave him the Scooby snacks. Mm-hmm. And Scooby ate the Scooby snacks and he was so excited and he ate them. And all 4 of the kids were laughing, and then, they're all looking kind of downward, but you can't see Scooby at all. Yeah. And I think it was ultimately just a budgetary thing. They're just trying to prevent showing Scooby as much as possible, either because they're ashamed of how he looks, or also it's really expensive to show him in that scene. But it's just interesting because, I feel like Scooby just takes place in a completely different movie than these 4 characters at all. So let's move on to Shaggy. He is portrayed by Nick Pilatus in this movie. Kind of like what we noted earlier. He's a really nervous child. Really insecure, kind of an outcast, as we have said.
Yeah, and that anxiousness about him kind of takes away from the humor that we get from the Shaggy and, the cartoons. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be a point that I'm going to say about all 4 of the teens in this movie, but I have a weird idea of trying to connect this character to what we see in the cartoons. I'm going to refer to, the What's New Scooby-Doo version of Shaggy, as well as the Scooby-Doo Where Are You version of Shaggy, where he's always cracking jokes. And I guess this one is too, but he's a lot more confident about it in the cartoons. He's not, laughing at himself because he's, trying to reassure himself that he's funny. He genuinely thinks he's funny. Yeah. He has, a higher self, image of himself, I think. He's not insecure about himself in the cartoon.
And the only way that I can justify that is just with the fact of the Shaggy we see in the cartoons is older. So I think and I mean, I don't like the awkwardness, and this isn't justifying it at all, but I think that, like, this is high school Shaggy, where he's kind of, like, nervous, he doesn't really have a lot of friends, he's still trying to figure out, am I funny, like, where is my part in this world, and then, like, the Scooby we see in the cartoons, he was like, I'm funny, I don't give a fuck, like, I'm gonna crack this joke, I'm gonna laugh, because, like, I'm me, like, this is who I am. So, and it's not justifying it at all, but I think that's the difference between the two.
Because I also, like, and I know we see this in different cartoons throughout the Scooby-Doo franchise as well, Shaggy has friends outside of Velma, Daphne, and Fred.
Yeah.
I really easily see him having friends and being a likable person outside of Mystery Incorporated. So it's weird for me to transition into Mystery Begins, where instead he's like the complete 180.
Yeah.
He has no confidence. He has no friends. He has a weird sense of humor. And just all around, he's just awkward. Like, I wouldn't want to be this Shaggy's friend.
No.
I would want to be friends with the cartoon Shaggy, but not this Shaggy.
Because the Shaggy that, like, we see in the cartoons, I mean, we find out, he's, like, the highest jumper or whatever, like...
The swingingest gymnast in school,
I was
as
actually
Daphne has
about to
always
make
said.
a reference to that.
Yeah, like, we see that he's the swingingest gymnast. We know that he, he can, like, throw his voice. Like, Shaggy's got some talent
He's
here
a
and there.
cool kid.
Yeah. And, like, I feel like that Shaggy that we see in the cartoons, if you, like, young him up and throw him in high school, he'd still be weird and out of place. But I really feel like at least he'd be, like, friends with the other outcasts. Where it feels like right now he's just, like...
a loner.
Yeah, he's, like, an outcast even to the outcasts. Like, no one wants to be his friend. And, I mean... watching this character, you can see why. He's been held back twice. He's fucking stupid. Like, he's literally illiterate. Like, he
looks
just...
dirty.
Yeah, he just, like, he's not somebody I would want to be around.
No. And then when you think about the What's New Scooby-Doo version of Shaggy, Shaggy's still really confident. He is always cracking jokes. Yep. He's got hobbies outside of mystery solving. There's an episode in What's New Scooby-Doo where he plays mini golf professionally.
Yeah.
He counsels a summer camp for kids with Scooby at one point. Like, he does things. He is a really productive person. And he's an interesting person, in my opinion. This Shaggy, I kind of cringe when I watch this version of Shaggy.
Yeah.
Velma.
I don't like this Velma.
I don't like her either.
Shannon, you expand first, and then Stephanie, you can.
So, right from the moment we see her, like, we always know that Velma is nerdy.
Yes.
This Velma is just something else. She is fucking weird. And then, like, okay, so I cracked a joke, and then you actually told me later on what I'm about to say, but, like, I cracked a joke while we were watching it about Velma also being wet for Daphne, because every time that, like, Daphne and her are in a scene together, she has to crack something about, like, Daphne being the hottie and Daphne being the pretty one and, like, Daphne's the gorgeous girl. And then, like, so I was like, yeah, she's wet for Daphne also. And then while we were talking about it after, you were like, well, yeah, you know she's a lesbian, right? Like, she's played by a lesbian.
The actress, Haley Kiyoko, yeah, she is a lesbian.
So I, like... And that's, like, nothing. Like, I'm sure she didn't have influence over the lines or whatever. But it was something funny that I thought was thrown in there. But this Velma is just very, like, not the Velma that we see. This Velma is so self-conscious, which, like, I guess you could argue that sometimes Velma is. But Velma's very, like... she's outgoing and she knows what she's good at and she does it. And this Velma is sort of the same way, but then she's very, like, she makes it overly aware that, like, yeah, I'm the ugly one. Like, I know I'm the ugly one. Like, that. And it's like, stop being so obsessed that you're the ugly one. Because it's weird. I don't like it.
I don't know how to describe it. Like, there was just, like, a vibe. I don't know if it's, like, arrogance or something.
I was gonna kind of say that, actually.
Okay.
Is it arrogance?
Yeah.
The vibe I'm getting from her?
Uh-huh. Like, she knows she's the smart one in this case.
Yeah.
And
I get a very, like, Hermione Granger times, like,
10,000.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look
that is
at it.
Because she's very, like...
Like, all I can think of is, like, first-year Hermione Granger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, she's just very overly aware of herself. And points it out.
Here's the thing, too. Velma and Daphne, especially Daphne. Daphne is always regarded as, like, the least developed character out of the 5.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Velma and Daphne have seen the most change in their characters across all 50 years of the franchise.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about Daphne in this instance. I'm going to talk about Velma. So Velma, when we first see her in 1969, she's smart. She cracks jokes with Daphne. She makes fun of Shaggy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you think about, like, what's new Scooby-Doo, Velma's joking with everybody. She's making fun of everybody because she's kind of a goofball in a way.
Yeah.
She has that sarcasm to her. She reminds me of my aunt. Pup named Scooby-Doo version of Velma. She's cute. She's shy, but she's super smart. And she's not bragging about it.
No.
Velma is not a bragster in a pup named Scooby-Doo. And then you think Mystery Incorporated or Be Cool Scooby-Doo versions of Velma, where she's a sass master. And none of those versions of Velma are like this version of Velma.
That's why that's why I got really upset with this movie, because they took all of that character development, which at the time was 40 years, now we're at 50, but this came out 40 years. So they took 40 years of character development and then just threw it out the window and placed her in this. They
were just kind of like, okay, Velma's the smart one. She has glasses. Go for it.
Like I said, they don't know what Scooby-Doo is.
I guess not, because when we see the scene where, like, Daphne is doing Velma's makeup and everything like that, and, like, makes her look fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
That made me just think that Velma's lazy. But aside from that, she's super obsessed with her science and her knowledge. She's weird, too. Like, she's also weird like Shaggy. We see a couple times in the movie where they're, like, doing their undercover investigating, and Velma's like, okay, let's go. And then she starts running in, like, zigzag paths.
Literally, it's
everywhere.
like she's running away from an alligator or a crocodile.
Yeah, she did that at the high school, and she did that in front of Daphne's house.
And the vice principal's house.
Did she do it at the vice principal's house? Okay. I just remembered the high school and Daphne's house. But she's also really weird. And I don't like that about her, because in no other version of Velma, in my opinion, she's not weird. Like, in all those versions that I just described across the other 50 years, she's never really been a weird girl.
No, and even if there was, like, a moment where she was weird, it never, like, was a characteristic.
Mm-hmm. Or she was, like, self-aware of it, too.
Yeah.
Like, she acknowledged that she was being weird, but she wasn't being awkward about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. This Velma was just a really strange rendition in general. Because, for one, this is the very first time that we've ever seen any of the characters portrayed by someone who isn't white.
Yeah.
Also, this is a weird time where we're also seeing her interested in Fred.
I mean,
kind of.
Well, and the thing is, like, on this podcast, we joke a lot about Velma being wet for Fred because, like, oh, look at the way she stared at him or whatever. It's never been, like, verbalized that she was wet for Fred.
Or even visualized, really, because there was actually 2 instances in this movie where she did that.
Yeah.
When she was doing her makeup with Daphne, and she's like, what do you think of Fred? As in, like, she's interested in Fred.
Well, because she said, like, do you think Fred would be interested in this? And Daphne, like, cut her nail all extra short, and I was like, that was fucking rude.
Yes.
Because that's gonna hurt for, like, 9 days.
But then the other instance is that when they're in the underground school, she tries to open a door and it causes a wall to collapse, but Fred pushes her out of the way and he lands on top of her.
I'm gonna be honest though, like, Fred rolled with her, and the way that they landed, like, their legs were like
intertwined.
Like he didn't have to land that way.
No, but she was looking at him all wooingly, too.
Yeah.
And they did that on purpose.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then did you see Daphne's face?
Yes, because she was just all pissed about it.
I just want to see a cat fight break out right
now.
Right.
And my biggest thing with it, too, though, is that Daphne grabbed Shaggy and Scooby. She could have grabbed Velma.
What do you mean?
When the door started to fall, she went, Shaggy! And grabbed Shaggy and, like, pushed them out of the way. And then Fred tackled Velma.
I thought she shouted Velma.
I don't know.
I thought that Shaggy and Scooby were out of the way at this point. I think only Velma was in danger of the wall landing on her.
Because I don't know. No, I mean, either that or it was just real bad acting. Because everyone thought, like, their faces were all super relaxed. And then Fred turned around and was like, Velma! And then, like, ran for her. So maybe just bad acting. My bad, but...
So let's move on to Daphne then. Daphne is characterized in this movie as a thespian. She enjoys theater and acting. Like we said at the beginning of our conversation, we think that she was reading Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. She still maintains that rich background. She has well-off parents. An interesting thing, in my opinion, is that Velma, when they were like having that bonding scene in the Mystery Machine, she was just like, I thought that you were gonna be like a snobby girl or whatever like that.
Daddy issues.
Is that what she said?
Yeah,
like she did say
like
that.
A daddy complex or something.
Yes.
Like it was very like, oh.
But see, that's the thing. I think, Stephanie, you said this where like you kind of thought she was gonna do that when Shaggy was gonna ask her to sit next to him. But never once in the entire movie does she display any kind of attitude like that. Well, I would want to be friends with this Daphne.
I think that was like pretty successful, where you thought that she was gonna be this snobby girl, but then she actually
because we know Daphne from other versions, and never is she like rich and snobby in any of the other versions for the most part. But like, because you know she's rich, because you know it's high school, like you're expecting a certain je ne sais quoi from her, and she never displays it. And even like to the point where she's like, yeah, because my family's rich doesn't mean that they give me everything. When I turn 16, I get this junker and the gardener gets a new van. Like,
the only time that we've ever seen Daphne really been a snobby person was in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo.
I was actually about to say that, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be correct in saying that.
No, and that's why I said most.
Because like even in like Where Are You?
Like she was
nice and funny, but the only thing that was also characterized about her in that show was that she was either getting captured by monsters all the time, or she was worried about her looks.
Yeah,
but
I was expecting her to be more of a fashionista. Mm-hmm.
But instead, everyone wants to view her, aside from A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, everyone wants to view her as like this snobby, bitchy girl that's going to like degrade you.
Yeah.
And that's never been really the case outside of A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. So then when you see her in this movie, she never displays that emotion at all. She was more than happy to let Shaggy sit with her on the bus.
And the only time she got annoyed was when he wouldn't shut up and she was like, yo, I'm trying to run lines. Like, she's like, I got a job to do, like... And that's the only time. And she doesn't even say anything rude to him. She's just like, you do your thing, I'll move. Like, it's not like she's like, all right, get the fuck out.
Now,
like,
I do think that she's kind of being a bitch when it comes to Fred, because she's not in a relationship with Fred.
And that's my big thing, is that, like, for the entire time...
They're implying that they have a chemistry when they don't.
And that's the biggest issue that I have with this movie, is the fact that they keep trying to, like, insinuate that they have chemistry without ever giving the characters chemistry. So to the point where Fred even goes like, and for the record, I don't think that Daphne's that hot. And it's like, well, fuck you. And then like literally the next day they're kissing. And it's like,
yeah,
what?
But again, that was Daphne initiating that for the sake of a distraction from the vice principal.
But both of them were just like, whoa. And like suddenly that was supposed to be like a spark moment, and it wasn't. It was
because they never displayed any form of affection ever again in the movie.
The only time, I think at one point they hold hands. Or no, because...
No, you're right. They did do that.
Because, well, she hugs him after they escape the school. The next day when they see each other, she runs up and hugs him, and she was like, oh, I was going to call you, but I didn't know your last name.
Well, then also when they were going to be forced to go into the underground school, that's when she grabbed his hand.
Yeah. And so, like, after they kiss, there's, like, they start to attempt chemistry, but by that point, like, the movie's already mostly over. Like, I don't care. You've been fighting and you've been like pushing these characters apart, and then suddenly they kiss and everything changes. Like
it's weird that the kiss is the climax of the chemistry in a way. Like, because they don't kiss again.
No.
They don't talk about the kiss again.
No.
It was just
they
a
don't
weird thing
like
to
initiate
include.
like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
You know, and then that's the whole thing. Is so then like she gets all pissed off when Velma asks like, so do you think Fred would be interested? Well, and that's also before the kiss. But it's just
but then when she gave Velma dirty looks when she got saved by Fred in the underground school.
Well, and that was but that's the issue that I have, is that like the entire time they're pushing Fred and Daphne away from each other chemistry-wise.
I'm assuming that this does not get resolved in the sequel.
I don't know.
I'm not going to spoil the sequel at all for you guys.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've seen the sequel. If I have, I desperately don't remember.
I'm not going to say anything about the sequel, but anyway, in this movie, there's no payoff. What's the fucking point?
Oh, I also do have to say one thing. Well, okay, I'll say it when we get to Fred.
Well, why not we just move on to Fred? I don't really have that much to say other than the fact that everyone thinks that Daphne's a bitch when she's not.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Okay, so Fred, what do you think?
So the funny thing is, when Stephanie and I were talking about Fred at one point, she had mentioned that Fred's masculinity is very fragile. And I thought that was really funny because she hasn't seen any of the live actions.
Yeah, I think my words exactly was that, like, Fred has to prove his masculinity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember what it was in reference to.
Yeah. So I did tell her, I was like, in all of the live actions, his masculinity is very fragile. Like, that's the only consistency we have in the live.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the context too, but there was a scene like that.
Yeah, because they say something, and he's just like, "No, I'm."
Oh, you know what it was? They were in the cemetery, and Daphne spooked him.
Yes,
and then he's just like, "I'm not scared. You're scared," or whatever like that. And it's like, shut up.
Nice ad hoc.
But it's just so forced too.
Yeah,
that's this movie's just forced in general.
Yes, that's another comment I specifically saw it with Fred. Was that it just seemed like his character was very forced.
What were your guys' thoughts on Robbie Amell as Fred?
Love the actor. Love him.
As Fred
I was
Jones,
actually
though?
very surprised when I even first saw the cover, and I was like, oh, he's Fred.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Especially because they don't dye his hair or make him wear a wig or anything like that. So in this version of Fred, he's a brunette.
So I have a note for Robbie Amell. Robbie, honey, I love you. But you were just starting out as a career-wise, or like I guess you were in the midst of a heartthrob. You were playing Fred Jones, who is a blonde. Dye your fucking hair.
Yeah, get over it.
Like, you got cast as a part. Do it. Because, like, honestly, like, it took me so far. And also because, like, as we keep saying, all of the characters are so forced. So it really, like, took me out of seeing him as Fred. Because I just, like, because let alone are you a brunette, you're also not portraying the character at all how Fred would act. And so it's just, like, I really, really struggled with seeing him as Fred. As, like, yes, like, I love Robbie. I think he is, like, hot for tots, whatever. Like, he's cute. But, like, he just, hashtag not my Fred.
Well,
I also have to make the comment that with his, like, bully of a friend that was on the bus, I just have to say it. I'm pretty sure he was his Duff.
The bully or Fred?
Fred
was
the bully's Duff.
That's fair.
But then let's also think about the other characteristics that they added on to Fred in this movie. He's a football player.
Wasn't he?
He's a jock. Yeah.
He's a jock, but he's a football player in this movie.
Hasn't he been a jock before?
I don't think
Not
so.
explicitly.
Okay.
In Mr. Incorporated, which came out after this, he's a soccer player, not a football player.
Oh, okay.
But in this movie, he's a football player, which, for one, he does not look like he's a football player.
No.
But then, also, he's an asshole. For instance, and he doesn't apologize for it until the end of the movie, when they're all in detention in the library.
Oh, fucking asshole.
Yeah,
oh.
Okay, so let me talk about this, because we didn't talk about it before. So they're all told, it's like, okay, you can't text, you can't talk, like, you're going to sit here and, like, basically just, like, do your homework or just read for the next 2 hours. So Fred, Daphne, and Velma all pull out mystery books, incidentally, which is also a super forced idea in this movie. They just all love mysteries on their own.
I'm going to be honest, like, I thought
Best
it was...
genre ever.
I thought it was kind of cute, but definitely forced.
The only person I would believe that would like mysteries within this version of the gang would be Daphne.
Mm-hmm.
See, I kind of, like, I could see Velma liking them.
But more so Daphne.
Because she's got that theater back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then they're all reading the books. Shaggy is just ignoring them. He goes to sleep. And Fred tries apologizing to Daphne about what happened on the bus. Velma instigates the fact that Fred didn't apologize to her. They all kind of petty squabble about it. And then...
Because you apologize to the pretty girl, but not the ugly
exactly.
one.
And she keeps talking about that later on in the movie, too. But then Daphne's just like, well, thanks, but... she basically had to just said, like, whatever, like forget it.
Thanks for apologizing. I don't actually
I just really want to read. I just really want to finish my book. Because she was almost done. And that's when, like, Fred looks at the cover and, like, realizes that I guess he's also read that book before and then spoils the fucking ending for her.
He goes, by the way, I've already read that one. The old...
I don't remember the name of the person.
Whatever his... Like,
this
the
one
old
guy did it.
groundskeeper did it, and she was like, you did not. And then Velma's like, I was gonna read that one next, and literally it was just like, fuck you.
Yeah. But, like, aside from that, I felt like there were a lot of instances where Fred was just not a likable character.
No, he was unapologetically just an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there were, like, certain points where he did, like, own up and, like, try and be, like, a really cool character. Like, I think it was after Shaggy and Scooby got found in the freezer.
Oh, yeah. And
like,
and he stepped up for them so that they weren't the only ones that got
them.
expelled. Yeah.
So I guess so.
But I just think...
I felt like they tried to, like, with every bad, tried to add a good trait. But honestly, like, it came off more of just, you're an asshole and, like, sometimes you're nice.
Well, kind of like what we said earlier about the bully. He never actually stands up for Shaggy to the bully. And the bully is really the only antagonistic character, in my opinion, to Shaggy specifically in the movie. And the problem is that we never see that bully guy again. So that's never resolved. So I feel like Fred becoming Shaggy's friend is more so just happenstance with him being friends with Daphne and Velma. So I don't really feel like he really develops as a person with his friendship to Shaggy.
I'm also going to be honest. I think that the rest of, like, because like we always said, like the three of them have already bonded and Shaggy's just kind of outcast. I feel like they only let Shaggy stick around because they want
he had
the
a driver's license.
Oh.
Or that.
They want the dog. Like, they love Scooby. He's cute. He's their dog now, too. And then, like, now you have a chaperone to drive you around. Like, I guess we can keep him.
One more comment before we move on to our next, some of our last categories here. We kind of glossed over Daphne's actress, Kate Melton. What were your guys' opinions on her?
I liked her.
I like her. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. When I first saw her, she looks like my cousin, who is also an actress. So when I, like, first saw it, I was like, holy shit. But obviously it's not my cousin, because, like, that would have been something I bragged about. But
I'm cousins with an actor from Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins.
Excuse me, I'm related to Daphne, so please fuck off. But no.
So, Shannon, you've seen the other live-action movies.
Yeah.
Which version of Daphne do you like better? Sarah Michelle Gellar or Kate Melton? Okay.
I like Sarah better.
Okay.
But Sarah's also not my favorite Daphne. Because I have an issue with seeing her not as Buffy. But I like that I do like that Daphne better because she's just a stronger role model.
Okay. I'm mixed just because...
But this Daphne's, like, so sweet and innocent, and I love her.
Here's my thing, is that I find Kate Melton's Daphne to be more admirable and likable.
Yeah.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar's to be a lot more, like, standoffish and kind of diva-ish a little bit.
That's true.
But that ultimately comes down to two different portrayals of Daphne, I guess. So it's really hard to compare the two there.
Like, this one's very sweet and innocent, and, like, she's everything we want Daphne to be. But also, like, Kate's Daphne is the one that I can see as, like, Where Are You? Where she gets kidnapped a lot. Whereas, like, Sarah's is very, like, girl power. I went and took, like, I can take care of myself now. Like, I like that one. But, I mean, that's what I said. The live actions are so difficult with Daphne because, like, I love Daphne's character. She is one of my favorite characters in Scooby-Doo. But when it comes to the live actions, like, they just can't get it right. I
think that's a problem with all of them.
Yeah, no, that is
I think the only one who really ever did any of the characters justice was Matthew Lillard's version of Shaggy.
Yes.
Okay, so that's pretty much casting characters. Real briefly, let's talk about special effects.
Okay.
So...
They suck.
We've already acknowledged that Scooby looks awful. Let's talk about the ghosts.
They look awful, too.
They literally looked like they just threw rigs on people and then just flew them.
Like, which I'm pretty sure the Ghostbuster ghosts looked better than these ghosts.
The original Ghostbusters ghosts from the 70s looked better.
I hated watching them come in and out of objects when they were possessing, like, let's say the mannequins in the high school.
Yeah, because they were, like, weird and warpy, and then they'd turn into a person, and it was super fucking weird.
I thought the acting for them was terrible, too, but we've already kind of glossed over acting. Because not only were they the only ghosts that we see, but we also briefly see, like, the outbreak of all the other ghosts when Shaggy accidentally summons them.
Yeah.
And all the other ghosts, for one, look substantially worse.
Yeah.
But they all just look so out of place, including Scooby. Like, they really don't look like they blend into the world at all.
Yeah. You can tell, like, you know when you're watching a movie and you can definitely tell there's a green screen?
Yes.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Opposite. Like, you can definitely tell those people were, like, cut and paste into the scene.
Now, aside from visual effects, there's audio effects to talk about, too. We have mentioned that this movie does a really weird job of blending in cartoon elements.
Mm-hmm.
They do really weird sound effects too to go along with some of the actions in the movie.
Yeah, I was noticing.
Did you notice that? Like when Shaggy got tripped, or Velma having her eyebrows plucked.
What really bugged me was just like Scooby's running.
That too. And I don't know if maybe it's just something that I didn't notice in the other live action movies, the theatrical ones, but they were a lot more noticeable in this one, if at all. And they just don't fit in.
Budgetary as well.
It could have been, but I hate the idea that they want both versions of Scooby into one piece here. They're trying to blend a cartoon Scooby into a real world, and it just doesn't work. And I think that's what really bothers me with my immersion in this movie, because Scooby doesn't look like he's really there. Scooby's never in the same frame hardly with the rest of the gang. The ghosts look fucking awful. And the sound effects just really pull me out of this idea that this is supposed to be a real world Scooby gang.
Yeah.
And I guess a real world Scooby gang is just too much to ask for, because
obviously
the first two movies didn't really do it all that justice anyway, and I know the sequel to this movie did a lot worse than this movie.
Well, and it's just like, it sucks because like I know that like going from an animation to a live action is hard. I get that like making a movie is hard in and of itself, and then like having to animate like one specific thing, but at the same time, like we've had the Jungle Book, where, like, there was one boy and absolutely everything else was animated in.
But granted, that came out in, like, what was it, 2017?
No, I know. Yeah. But I mean, like, I guarantee when we go and watch, what's the newest one? Velma and Daphne?
Daphne and Velma.
Daphne and Velma.
We're gonna hate it.
I'm sure that one's going to be just as shitty as the rest of these. And that one came out last year?
Yes.
So,
maybe 2 years ago, but yeah. So within the last 2 years, that movie came out.
So as we, like, move forward with these live actions, like, I am going to get more critical. I will admit, like, this one came out in 2009. Like, I get it. It was, 2009. They did with what they could. But, like, you also have movies, okay, like Jurassic Park. Like, those animations still hold up. I don't know. It's just very much, like... And they obviously had a bigger budget.
There's a lot more to talk
like
about in that regard, but the effects in this movie, given it's a TV movie, I wasn't impressed.
No,
was not impressed at all.
No, they sucked. I was so unimpressed. Again, that like stuff like that took me out of the movie so much.
Do you have anything else to say, Steph, about that? No. Okay. Last category for the actual movie discussion that I listed here was random observations.
Yes.
So if there's anything that you just kind of wanted to mention that didn't really fit in any other categories, feel free to talk about it now.
Yeah, this might fit into the special effects one, but did you notice, like, when they're in the library and it's, like, right before, like, the ghost stuff happens, like, kind of a Dementor-ish, like, type thing happened where the room got cold and you could see Shaggy's breath. Yeah. But Shaggy's breath was the only person's breath you could see. It's just because he's a wizard, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
How about the fact that this movie had a racist scene? Did you notice that? I know Stephanie did. Did you notice that? Okay, so when they get inside of what will one day become Daphne's mystery machine.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this is the gardener's utility van.
Uh-huh.
When Shaggy first starts the car and the radio starts blaring, it plays Mexican music.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Yep.
Don't try and justify it, Shannon. That happened.
Because I was legit just going to be like, I mean, no, I guess that is like a racist scene. I don't know. It's just, it's shitty.
The subtleness there.
But it was subtle too.
Racism.
I almost missed it when I watched it.
I didn't even think about it. Like, I noticed that it was Mexican music.
I thought it was weird music, and then it kind of hit me, and I was like,
yeah.
It was Mexican. Yeah.
So, Shannon, do you have any random observations from the movie?
The only thing that I want to say is I have to give a shout out to my girl, Wendy Donaldson. For you uncultured swine, she was the microwave woman. So, like, she opens up the microwave, and keep in mind, like, she's heating up her tea at, like, 10 o'clock at night.
But
this sweet old woman, I assume she's sweet.
Her microwave wasn't on, though. I noticed that part. But anyway.
So she had, the microwave beeps, and she goes to
No, it didn't beep. There was no beep. No!
So the microwave's completely off.
Yes, it's off.
And her coffee is just sitting there. Yes. It's like 10 o'clock at night. She opens it up to retrieve her coffee and a fucking ghost comes out. And the poor woman just like passes out. And that's like a very like Shannon thing that would happen. But like my girl Wendy, I live for you. You are amazing.
Some things I noticed from...
Best acting of the show.
Some things that I noticed from after Shaggy accidentally summoned all the rest of the ghosts. So the ghosts, they all rise out of their graves. They go into Coolsville and they terrorize all the citizens. Two things from this scene. For one, people who are our age are hanging out at the movie theater all watching a 3D classic film.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
What was the film?
It was just some old... It looked like a Western movie.
But okay. 3D.
It would be something that my grandpa would watch. But they were all wearing 3D glasses.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I'm just like, what the fuck?
So that's
what kind of world is this?
So it's just like John Wayne, but in 3D.
And kids our age watching it.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. If they came out with like a John Wayne Western in 3D, I'd probably go see it. Just be like, what the fuck is going on?
But it's also showing at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And then... Aside from that, there was a part when the ghosts are still, terrorizing the town. We see this couple in their car. A ghost flies through the back of the car and just scares them. And then this one ghost pops out from what looks like he's like looking up
in
the
her
girl's
vagina.
pants.
Yeah, he comes out of like...
Yeah, but then he like rises up, and when his head is like up against her head, you hear a kissing noise. That ghost kissed her.
Did you see her
flew
reaction
off.
though?
No.
After he flew off, she was like, and like wiped it off or whatever. Like she like flipped out. Like, that was like a meaningful
ew, that was a
thing.
Rapey thing.
Yeah.
Like, ew.
The ghost was like, I'm gonna come out of your vagina and kiss you.
Why was that necessary? Who decided to add that to this movie?
And
animators.
And you know that was like something that was put in after. Like,
yeah. Uh-huh. Like, okay, so they wrote it. They filmed the couple reacting and then also sent the animators in to edit that film. And at no point did anyone just be like,
maybe
this
we
is kind of not okay.
It happens.
No one's gonna say anything about it.
So then how about like Easter eggs? So we noticed like the 1969 on the bus.
Yeah.
They referenced the Coolsville Museum being their first Where Are You mystery. Was there anything else that maybe either of you two picked up that I didn't on this movie that were like supposed to be Scooby-Doo Easter eggs in general?
I think those were the only two that I caught. The only thing that I could think of was on his name tag it says SD, and then on the back apparently it says Scooby-Doo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So they did establish that his name in this universe is officially Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to say too. At one point when Scooby is at the animal thing, he's holding up signs that say like, housebroken, good with pets, and it says hypoallergenic.
Huh.
So Scooby is, because there are a few dogs. Great Danes are not one of them, but there are a few dogs that are hypoallergenic.
So are you suggesting that he's a mix?
So maybe he is mixed with something.
Okay. I don't really have any other like random observations. I feel like everything that I kind of wanted to talk about we've covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that pretty much all you guys wanted to talk about for this movie?
Yeah.
Okay, well then we'll move on to like final thoughts and Scooby Snackometer rating. So Stephanie, since you're our guest today, we're gonna have you provide your Scooby Snackometer rating as well as your reasoning behind it. So what do you want it rated out of 10?
I actually will put it at a 6, specifically because it was my first one. I didn't know what to expect, and I did enjoy it. Like, I'll agree it wasn't like the greatest movie in the world. It's not something I would write home about, but like, I still thought that it was decent.
You had a good time.
Yeah.
If you had been Shannon and said that rating, I would have looked at you so meanly.
Now, to be fair, like I say, because I haven't seen the other ones, like, maybe if I had it to compare to the other ones, it might be a lower rating as well.
How about you, Shannon?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
Okay.
Because I have seen the other movies. Because we do this every week, and I know what to expect. And I know that Fred is blonde. And I know that, like, Shaggy's not a fucking weirdo. And, like, I know all these things. I see this every week. And this movie, like I said, like, it just time and time again, it took me out of the movie. I couldn't fully immerse myself in it. And, I mean, maybe things had been different if, like, I don't know, if, you know, I don't know. It just, the movie was not my favorite. The CGI took me out, you know, all the forcedness. Like, it very much took me out. I know our gang, and, like...
This is not them.
Hashtag not my Scooby.
And, yeah, I share that same sentiment. I have watched a lot of Scooby-Doo media in my life, and I've become a lot more critical of it as we've started this podcast, and, you know, actually really examine the stuff that we see on the screen. And this movie was really disappointing. I think back to when we actually had, like, our critical analysis of Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed when we were on, you know, the Monsters podcast, and I enjoyed, like, the other live action movies so much more. This movie was a cringe fest for me to watch, just because it's this weird alternate universe where, like,
this one just kind of hung on its own. Like, I don't connect this one with anything else.
Like, this one is what I would consider a black sheep.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk about the movies with black sheep movies, this is it.
Can we call it a brunette sheep because of Fred's hair?
We can, yes. A brunette sheep. And as a result, because I liked it even less than both of you. I actually am giving it a 3.
Wow.
This one disappointed me.
No, yeah.
I knew it was going to be bad, because I just remember it being substantially worse than the original theatrical movies. But then also thinking about its contradictions to already standard continuity, and the things that it's establishing in this movie that have never been established before is what makes it problematic for me, because, I don't know, it's just, this is our first origin story for Scooby-Doo officially, and it was a bummer. Yeah. It was a real bummer, especially for this being the 40th anniversary celebration of the franchise.
And I'm especially bummed out just because this is Stephanie's, like, first interaction with, like, a live-action Scooby, and I think this is, like, one of the first times you've come back to Scooby as an adult.
Yeah.
Like, I know you've seen, like, a few things with me,
I'll be quite honest, I don't even remember the last time I've actually watched a Scooby. Well, then again, I've kind of been in the room with you guys.
I know you've watched a few Scooby episodes with us,
but on your own, or just
sitting
immersing
down
yourself
and doing
into
it.
Yeah, I think really the last time I immersed myself into it, I was probably a child, and it was probably like Scooby-Doo Where Are You episode.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm giving it a 3. Shannon, you're giving it a 4, and Stephanie, you're giving it a 6. So averaging it all out to the nearest whole number or half number, we are officially giving Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins a 4.5 on the Scooby Snackometer. That shocks me. I thought it would be lower.
Sorry, guys. I brought your average up.
Yes, you really skewed our number there, Stephanie. Thank you for that.
Now, Derek,
I'm not going to be invited back.
No, Derek, we're kind of down in the dumps. You know what would really cheer me up?
What's that?
A fun fact.
Okay. It's about this movie, so I don't know if it's going to really make you that happy. So this is the very first time in the entirety of the Scooby-Doo franchise where we get an established state of residence for the Scooby Gang. I know that, like, on the Scooby-Doo's or Scooby-Don'ts podcast, they theorize that Coolsville is a cartoon version of San Diego. Mm-hmm. And other people have also insinuated that it takes place in California. We've even discussed that we think that Crystal Cove is in California. Yeah. However, Coolsville, from even when we've seen it in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo or What's New Scooby-Doo, the state where the city takes place has never been mentioned. Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins is the first time where we actually get a state where it is in the United States, and that is Ohio.
I wonder why it sucked.
Yes, which is funny for us because we are Michiganders and we are all naturally inclined to hate Ohio.
Now, you always hear us, like, joke about Ohio and how much it sucks. Like, to our Ohio listeners, I'm sorry, but, like...
Not sorry either.
Not sorry.
Anyway.
The biggest thing that I want to say against Ohio is just, like, I'm sorry that all of your drivers suck, but, like, no wonder if you give people, like, Shaggy licenses.
Yeah, or how about just building a city that is...
On top of an underground city.
On top of an underground city, near a broken dam, also by a mountain.
That flooded.
Yeah, like, all this is terrible. Coolsville was not planned well.
Coolsville
is not so cool.
Yeah.
Well, see, and then it makes me kind of weary on comparing this movie to the original theatrical movies because that version of Coolsville that we see in the Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed movie is a much more developed Coolsville, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there was a second flood.
That's the city that got destroyed.
They're gonna know what it.
Now, Derek, I want your opinion also before we wrap things up on, do you think that, like, Crystal Cove, because we just said, you know, Crystal Cove, we say is in California, Coolsville is in Ohio. Do you associate, like, Coolsville and Crystal Cove as two completely different cities?
Yes. Oh, yeah, those are different continuities.
Okay.
People who worked on Scooby and Mystery Incorporated have acknowledged that Mystery Incorporated is supposed to be an Earth 2 for Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a completely alternate universe.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's the fun fact for the week, is that this movie is the very first time that it's been established where in the United States Coolsville and the gang actually are and live in.
So it only took them 40 years to pick a state.
Yeah, and they picked the worst one.
Yeah.
So that was our movie for season 3 of That Groovy Scoobcast. We are now going to introduce the wild card episode. So if you guys have listened to our prior seasons, we've never done this before. This is a brand new thing that Shannon and I are going to introduce to our podcast every season called the wild card. In order to allow ourselves to re-examine another episode from one of the series we've talked about in the past so far, we are going to randomly choose one of the 12 Scooby-Doo series, and then also randomly choose an episode from that series, and basically just kind of re-watch one of these series again. So, Shannon, would you like to randomize what series we are going to return to next episode?
Of course.
Here we go.
Oh my gosh. So funny enough, we are going all the way back to Scooby-Doo. Where Are You?
Yes! I'm so excited. So Where Are You is a series where we randomize. So now we're going to randomize again. What episode are we watching next week?
Next week, we will be watching Go Away Ghost Ship.
This is an episode I haven't seen in years.
It doesn't sound familiar.
I am going to be so excited to rewatch this one. Here's the premise for this episode, coming from Scoobypedia. Scooby and the gang investigate the happenings of several freighters that are getting raided by the ghost of Redbeard the Pirate and his crew.
Oh, I kind of remember that one.
Yeah, haven't seen this one in years. I can't wait. So yeah, I hope that you guys are interested in what this wild card will bring for us in the future. Definitely let us know your thoughts on it too. So if you guys have been keeping up with our podcast too, you would know that we've hinted at doing a contest as we do every season. This season, we are going to be giving away some Hot Topic Scooby-Doo wristbands, as well as another pair of Scooby-Doo socks. We will be posting a picture of both of those items on our social medias for you guys to check out. And the way you're going to be able to win these is going to be the same as last season, where you have to let us know what episode from Scooby-Doo Where Are You would like to see us review at the beginning of season 4. So definitely get your entries in. You can let us know on our Twitter at Groovy Scoobcast, on Tumblr at That Groovy Scoobcast, or you can even send us a message on Facebook at That Groovy Scoobcast.
You can also email us at thatgroovyscoobcast@gmail.com. And while you're at it, check out our website, www.thatgroovyscoobcast.com.
And don't let the contest be the only reason why you talk to us either. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins, or Go Away Ghost Ship, or anything Scooby-Doo related. We would love to hear what you guys have to say.
We love to hear your opinions and your thoughts. We love to get into arguments with you guys.
It's great all around. And Stephanie, we want to thank you again for joining us this week.
Of course.
I hope that you had a good time, and we hope that you return at some point, hopefully.
You guys want me back?
Maybe. Maybe when we do another live action movie, we'll have you back.
Maybe that'll be your thing.
Yeah. You can be the live action movie guest for us.
I mean, hey, I haven't seen them, so
there you go.
Willing to watch them.
All right, guys, you guys better hold us to it. And with that, we hope that you enjoyed that Groovy Scoobcast.
Come back next week for a Scooby snack-filled time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Scooby-Dooby do it.